Good afternoon. The time is now 1 p.m. and a quorum of the board is present. State Board of Education meeting of December 10th, 2019 is recalled to order. Marilyn, are there individuals who wish to address the board during today's meeting?
There are. I have a stack of forms. Does anyone else have a form they would like me to have for public participation? Okay. Due to the number of people that want to address the board today, we'll be giving 3 minutes. You can monitor that on the timer up there. If you have handouts, you can pass them to the person closest to you at the table, which is most likely going to be Kara, and we'll just pass them around. It's the practice of the board not to respond to comments during the public participation portion of the meeting. However, you may be contacted after the board meeting. Guidelines for public participation say that I need to have all the forms before we begin. We're going to maintain an atmosphere of respect for all people, as always, and disrespecting anyone by name will be gavelled down and asked to cease. We're going to strictly follow the time limits of 3 minutes, which you'll be able to monitor there. I will tell you who's speaking and who's next. The first speaker and all the subsequent speakers will just come to the end of the table to speak. I'll come back and get your form in a minute. So our first speaker is Jason Mancini, who will be followed by Sharice Butler. So whenever you're ready, we're ready.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jason Mancini. I'm the Director of Public Policy for the Charter School Office at Central Michigan University. Today I'm here on behalf of the Michigan Council of Charter School Authorizers. The council serves as a collaborative, nonprofit, nonpartisan professional organization that allows for the sharing of issues, ideas, resources, and best practices among all public charter school authorizers working in the state. Our mission is to advance public education and authorizing practices that foster excellence, choice, innovation, and accountability. The council is comprised of 10 authorizers, including 8 universities, Bay Mills Community College, and the Detroit Public Schools Community District. While the council represents the 10 largest authorizers, there are other authorizers, mainly districts, that authorize 1 or 2 schools. The council believes in high standards for all authorizers and has, through formal and informal outreach, helped others improve their practices too. I am here today to provide a brief overview of authorizing and share some of the innovative work that we are doing. In short, Michigan authorizers work together to improve the quality of education. We coordinate with each other through the council and our work in Detroit. Through the council, we have established quality standards. We work together to make sure that all schools have charter contracts that reflect the work they are doing and are in compliance with all applicable law. We share school openings, closings, site, and grade additions with each other to inform our collective work. In other words, there are no surprises. We learn from each other on how to best support the schools we charter. In addition, we are serious about accountability. We have established authorizing standards and best practices that we aspire to. We are held accountable through multiple means. Advancing excellence, the Michigan model for authorizer accountability that I've just provided to you today summarizes that accountability. Beyond the law, our authorizing bodies have established authorizing policies. We receive periodic review from the MDE, and we have established an accreditation system that includes 13 assurances. As you'll see in the book, the council's guiding principles include focusing on performance and accountability, ensuring equitable access and funding, encouraging innovation and excellence, and providing options for families, educators, and communities. Also in the guide are the standards that the council has adopted, which align with our guiding principles. Finally, I would like to note that the authorizers coordinate with MDE and have a very good working relationship with the PSA unit as well as other units in the department. We are grateful to Tammy and her team for their collaboration and coordination with us, especially as we all work together that CSP grant funds are invested wisely. This is something we look forward to continuing with. Thank you for your time today.
Our next speakers are Sharice Butler and Brianna Jones. I believe you're coming to the table together, and they will be followed by Kristen Grant and John Hemholt.
Thank you.
Whenever you're
Yes.
ready, we're
I'm
ready.
ready. So we'll have 6 minutes. Okay. Good afternoon, members of the board. to State Superintendent Rice and Board Member Ramos Martigny. I am here on behalf of the Office of the Superintendent for Detroit Public School Community District. And we are here in response to the request for the district to present its immigration and sanctuary district policy. Detroit Public Schools Community District is committed to protecting the right of all students to have access to a free public education, regardless of a child or family member's immigration status. And we are further committed to elevating tolerance, inclusiveness, and kindness to all students, families, and personnel at every district school, facility, and site. District personnel should not inquire or record a student's or family member's immigration status, or take action to stop the access to public education pursuant to the Family Education and Privacy Act. They should not disclose without parental consent the immigration status of any student and/or any other personal identification information, including the student's name or the student's parents, their social security number, or any other personal identifier. Based on its educational experience and a part of its deliberative process, the Board of Education for Detroit Public School Community District has found that the presence of immigration law enforcement officials substantially disrupts the learning environment, and any such request for access to a school site or district facility must be forwarded to the Office of the Superintendent and the Office of the General Counsel for review and approval. Approval must be granted to school personnel by the Office of the Superintendent and General Counsel prior to permitting access to any of our school sites or facilities. School personnel have been instructed and trained that they must not allow any third-party entity, including ICE, U.S. Customs Border Protection, or any other federal immigration entity, to enter a school site or facility without the consent of the Office of the Superintendent or General Counsel. The building site administrator or principal must contact our offices and then proceed from there. School personnel must contact the Office of the Superintendent and the Office of the General Counsel, and then they must also contact parents. So what you have received also is a brief summary of what our policy is. It basically states that we are a welcoming district for all students and for all families who are undocumented. We do not allow federal immigration agents to access our school grounds. We do not collect immigration information for enrollment. Our enrollment form does not request immigration status. Additionally, it says that if a family discloses any kind of information, they use identification, such as Department of Homeland Security documentation or Department of Justice documentation, we do not retain that information at the district. It is not recorded in our files. If ICE comes to a school to request access for student information, please know we will not give them immediate access. School personnel has been instructed and trained to contact the Office of the Superintendent and the Office of the General Counsel. From there, those two offices will review all requests having been made in writing and verify them. And then they will make a determination if the federal immigration agents are to be giving access. And we will also ensure that parents have been notified. Additionally, as a part of this, you will see on slide 5 where it says that we will request and require credentials, written authority, a copy of a judicial warrant, and we will retain a photocopy of that. We will also make note of those things, and we will keep a record of that, only that a request has been made. Know that the district has 3 departments that support this work and support our students. We have the Office of Bilingual Education and Related Programs. We have the Office of Family and Community Engagement, and the Office of Equity, Advocacy, and Civil Rights, which is under the direction of our Chief of Staff, Kristen Howard. Thank you so much for the time.
Our next speaker is Kristen Grant, who I believe is coming to the table with John Helmholt, and they will be followed by Nellie Fuentes.
Hello. Good afternoon, Superintendent Rice, Madam President, and members of the board. My name is Christian Grant, and I have the honor of serving as the board chair for the Grand Rapids Board of Education. I am here today to urge you to take a position in support of legislation that would provide driver's licenses for DACA recipients, undocumented immigrants, and legal immigrants who have not received their verified documents. Last month, our board voted unanimously in support of legislation that would restore access to driver's licenses for immigrants in Michigan. GRPS proudly serves students from 80 different countries with more than 70 different languages served. We have a vibrant newcomers program that serves hundreds of new Americans each and every year. When we learned about this issue, we knew that as a Board of Education, we needed to send a message to our students, families, and our community as a whole that we stand united with them. For us, it is about education, parental involvement, and ensuring parents are able to actively participate in their child's education. From getting their children to school, to attending parent-teacher conferences, athletic events, monthly parent nights, and other after-school activities. It's about public safety and ensuring individuals driving on our roads have passed a driver's test and secured the proper auto insurance. It's about our economy and the economic well-being of our families so that they can secure job training and access to jobs. Lastly, and arguably most of all, it is about human dignity and making sure our neighbors are able to take care of their family, get to and from work, visit a loved one, go to church, and be a productive member of our society. As a board, we are proud of our state lawmakers, Senator Winnie Brinks and Representative Rachel Hood, for their leadership on this issue and advancing the Drive Safe legislation. We are now part of a statewide coalition, including farmers, chambers of commerce, unions, and more advocating for this legislation. We are here today to ask the State Board of Education to please join us in the support of this legislation. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm John Helmholt. I head up communications for Grand Rapids Public Schools. And I just want to echo what our board president has said, is that we as a board and as a district, our interim superintendent, Dr. Ryan Gorman, feels very strongly about this issue. And we just appreciate the State Board of Education taking a look at this legislation, and again, encourage you to please come on board with us and support this and help to champion it in Lansing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nellie Fuentes, followed by Kevin Paulsen.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Nellie Fuentes, and I am coming from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I am a part of Cosecha Michigan, and I'm also part of a coalition, Drive Michigan Forward, that is working to advance this bill. I am here to ask for support and your loud support for this bill. I don't come here with statistics. I come here with my own experience. I don't have a driver's license. I am unable to get a driver's license because of my status. And I have a son. He's 16, and he attends one of the high schools in Kalamazoo. Just yesterday, he called me from high school, letting me know that he had pulled a muscle in his neck. I had to pick him up, and my very first thought was, I hope it's not snowing outside, because I'm going to have to get in my car and go pick him up. This is our everyday experience for undocumented immigrants. I got out this morning, out into my car, and as I'm cleaning the car out of snow, my very first thought is, please God, don't let me be stopped. Let other drivers not hit me, because for me, what that translates to is most likely deportation. This is an issue that it is not only seen in Kalamazoo, this is an issue that is seen all over the state. So I'm urging you to please consider supporting these bills, the Safe Drive, Drive Safe bills that have been put forth. Your support in your support in those bills is absolutely pivotal, not only for not only to send that strong message to legislators, but also to send a very strong message to parents like us that have children in schools all over Michigan, that the State Board of Education really does care about us. Thank you.
Next speaker is Kevin Paulsen. He will be followed by Eva Alvarez.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rice and State Board members. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Okay. Sorry for the technical
I'll take more
difficulty. We're in business now.
Thank you. Last night, the Godfrey Lee Board of Education, which I have the privilege of serving as superintendent, approved a resolution in support of driver's license for all and state identification cards for all. And I'd like to read that resolution to you, which you should have a copy of as well. The Godfrey Lee Board of Education supports undocumented persons being able to lawfully obtain driver's license and state identification cards, and urge lawmakers to support Senate Bills 631 and 632 and House Bills 5192 and 5193 that would allow immigrants to more easily integrate into their communities and benefit all Michiganders. As a Board of Education, we cite health, safety, dignity, and quality of life issues supporting this measure. This measure will support the economic health and safety of our students. Driver's licenses and state identification cards can also be a gateway to employment to help families secure their families economically. This would also allow undocumented persons to purchase cars and insurance, generating economic activity and improving road safety. Parents would also have the opportunity to volunteer at their child's school, attend after-school programs and extracurricular events. So a little bit about Godfrey Lee Public Schools. Godfrey Lee Public Schools has 50% of our students are English learners. In 2/3 of our households, English is not the language that's spoken or the native language of our students, and 75% of our students are Latinx. Many of our parents took extreme risk to provide more opportunity for their children by coming to America. And when you engage our families and you ask them, what do you want from our schools? They want their children to have the same thing as each of us want for our children. They want them to have opportunity and live out their hopes and dreams. And that's our responsibility as a school district. And I ask that other boards also advocate for our parents to be a partner in that process. Something as simple as volunteering at school requires us to do a background check. You have to have identification to do that. I encourage you to advocate that a parent's role in their child's education is vital to their success and put your support behind that. I also speak personally. I am the son of an immigrant, and without the risk-taking that my mom and her parents took, I wouldn't have the opportunity to sit before you today. And that's what Michigan's about, that's what this country's about, and collectively, we have a responsibility to ensure that that's the case for future generations as well. I also urge you to think about things that we take for granted. I have an 8-year-old son, 11-year-old daughter, and if they're sick at night and they have a fever and we don't have medicine, it's a no-brainer. I go drive and get medicine. If you're undocumented, you don't make that same decision. You think twice. There's privilege that we have that we take for granted, and I urge you to consider your role in advocacy for all persons in Michigan. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Eva Alvarez, followed by Yunlin Menlin Lin.
Good afternoon. My name is Eva Alvarez, and I work for the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center. The Michigan Immigrant Rights Center is a legal resource center for Michigan's immigrant communities. MERC works to build a thriving Michigan where immigrant communities experience equity and belonging. The Michigan Immigrant Rights Center is a program of the statewide advocacy services and the Michigan Advocacy Program. I am also part of the Drive Michigan Forward Coalition, and I am here to speak about a resolution to support driver's licenses for all. Since 2008, Michigan has required applicants for driver's licenses and state identification cards to provide proof of U.S. citizenship or immigration status by making legal presence a requirement for showing Michigan residency. Michigan law does not currently provide driver's licenses or state ID cards to individuals who do not have proof of legal immigration status, and some people who are U.S. citizens or in lawful immigration status have struggled to prove it or obtain verification. Significant delay may occur while the Secretary of State verifies certain categories of immigration documents with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services through their systematic alien verification or entitlement SAFE program. And non-citizens who hold statuses are often unable to obtain driver's licenses during verification or re-verification periods. 14 states and the District of Columbia have laws that provide access to a driver's license or identification regardless of their immigration status. The SAFE bills would make non-commercial Michigan driver's licenses and state identification cards available to applicants who do not have proof of U.S. citizenship or immigration status. The bills eliminate the legal presence requirement for proving Michigan residency, and they would specify types of documentation allowable for proving Michigan residency and identify for the new category of documents. The driver's license bill would modify the section of the Michigan Vehicle Code relating to driver's licenses, and identification bill would modify the section relating to the state identification cards. The bills would forbid discrimination against and heighten police scrutiny of individuals holding licenses issued under the new section of the law. These bills do not relate to voting or voter registration. Only U.S. citizens may vote, and the bill includes language affirming that the bill in no way expands access to the right to vote. The Secretary of State already has experience providing driver's licenses and state identification cards to many non-citizens and has procedures in place to only register U.S. citizens to vote. We encourage the Board of Education to pass this resolution when it comes forward to support driver's licenses for all, because at the end of the day, it affects all individuals in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Yinlin, Menlin, Lynn, I believe, coming with a group to the table.
Yes.
And followed by James Nicholas Girondists.
Good afternoon, State Board of Members. I am the principal of Grand Rapids Chinese Language School. So I am here to introduce who we are as a language school, and we are also here to tell you a little bit why foreign language education is should be a very important thing in our children's education. And so, first of all, let me tell you our mission statement as a school. So we are a nonprofit 510c weekend-only language school. Our mission is to provide West Michigan the opportunity to better prepare our community in the global economy, both educationally as well as culturally. And another thing we are trying to do is to enable our community to retain jobs and empower companies to create more jobs in West Michigan. So GRCLS, which is our school, established over 30 years ago. And we have currently 9 board members and over 13 teachers. And we have over 90 students, almost 100 students enrolled to our school. We provide from pre-K to 8th grade, AP Chinese, adult beginning, and adult advanced classes. We have in total 10 classes. And our curriculum consists of 2-hour formal language instruction. It's accompanied by 1 hour, which is a 3rd-hour special interest class, where we allow students to pick their own interest and to provide the students the opportunity to immerse into the Chinese language while engaging the language in a very realistic experience. Our goal as a nonprofit weekend language school is to teach Chinese language and culture in both spring and winter semesters. We have 2 semesters, to enable students to become more competitive in the global job market. And we also collaborate with other Chinese language schools in Michigan, and we want to strengthen Chinese language teaching and culture engagement in West Michigan as a whole community. We also interact with local communities, members, and leaders through various events. For instance, we have a signature event, which is our annual cultural celebration, where we invite local communities, local donors to come and to appreciate the students' performance with us, as well as their parents. And we also do fundraising. So another goal of our school is to reduce intergenerational conflicts. Say, for instance, first-generation Chinese and their children, they may have some conflicts because of the language, because of the culture, as well as to provide a culturalization to, say, adoptees from China. So when they come to this country, they need to re-engage with their mother language as well as their, culture, part of their culture. And as a school, we really bring different communities together. So, for instance, our teacher body is very inclusive. We have not only Chinese teachers, we also have Korean teachers. We also have teachers from LGBTQ community who teaches for us. And our students' demographic ranging from Chinese American, Asian American, Indians, African Americans, and we also have quite a bit of biracial or multiracial children that come to our school. And additionally, we as a school also actively participate in other cultures and local community events. For instance, we would participate in Asian Pacific, A Glimpse of Africa, and Movies on Monroe, so on and so forth. And we're thinking of joining the Hispanic cultural celebration next year as well. So as a school, we have huge achievements. So we not only work with students from different levels, we also send them out for speech contest, for composition contest. And as a result, our students become biculturally experienced. So they have a better mindset to accept multicultural, to be more adaptable to nowadays situation. And our school is also one of the very first schools to adopt the seal of biliteracy in the state of Michigan. So our vision as a nonprofit weekend school is to be the leader of foreign language and culture education in West Michigan. And we also envision a consistent growth in enrollment from 5 to 10% every school year in the next 5 years. So we need your support as educators, and we want to continue to support the foreign language education, and we want to make it very intentional so children know, everyone know why foreign language is important and why it has to be a part of our education. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Our next speaker is Carla Barberi, followed by Narita Avilas.
Hello, my name is Carla Barberi. I am a member of Movimiento Cosecha, a movement fighting for permanent protection, dignity, and respect for all undocumented immigrants in the United States. This movement was born out of necessity. Millions of us who have started lives and families in this country are forced to live hiding, out of plain sight, because our visibility makes us targets. We are targets of the criminal justice system, a system that seeks to make profit out of our detention and deportation. We are targets of racism. We are the recipients of hate words and actions. We are targets of our employers who exploit us by paying us less because we don't have papers. If we say a word against this, they tell us they will call ICE, immigration on us. This is our life, and yet we believe that no one should live a life like this. That is why we fight, so all of us, regardless of legal status, we can live a life of dignity and respect. Movimiento Cosecha has been active in Michigan for nearly 3 years and has organized May Day marches as well as campaigns to abolish ICE, to end the city and the county's complicity with ICE. Last year, Cosecha organized a 5-day pilgrimage in which immigrants walked to from Grand Rapids to Lansing to demand licenses for all, which is why we are here today, advocating for driver's license for all. Every day, millions of immigrants, parents, and workers get up in the morning to go to work or to take the children to school. Many have to do it by foot, using public transportation, or resort to asking for a ride because they don't want to run the risk of driving without a license. Many others take the risk and drive because they have no other choice. Not having a license often leads to ICE detention and family separations. The time has come for all immigrants to have licenses. We are a movement made up of fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, grandchildren, grandparents. Our movement has the participation of the whole family, from the youngest to the eldest. As a movement for the people, our work is with the people. We do not dance with the politicians, with political parties. We don't have meetings with them behind closed doors. We know that invitation to sit at a table is a tactic that politicians use to co-opt our movement. We're not here to beg you to listen to us. We do more for our community than you do for us as our representatives. We have protected our community. We have protected them from members from ICE. We have found resources when our community members can't afford to have food, housing. And we have marched and rallied so that our proposal for driver's licenses for all could be introduced. Where have you been? Where have the politicians been? What have you done? How would you like to be remembered when you step out of your seats? What legacy would you like to leave for your children? How would you like to be remembered tomorrow? I'm going to help her.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Nérida y soy madre de 7. Todos van a la escuela y son mi más preciado tesoro. Creo que su educación es una de las cosas más importantes que pueden tener en sus vidas. Todos los días me esfuerzo por prepararlos para ir a la escuela y todas las noches me aseguro de que estén al día con sus tareas. No pretendo tener hijos perfectos, pero estoy muy orgulloso de ellos. Estoy segura de que aquellos de ustedes que tienen hijos probablemente también están orgullosos de ellos. Estoy segura de que también quieren lo mejor para sus hijos. En eso no somos diferentes.
Good afternoon, my name is Nerida and I am a member of 7. They all go to school and they are the most precious asset. I believe that their education is one of the most important things they can have in their lives. Every day I strive to get them ready to go to school. Every night I make sure that they are up to date on their assignments. I don't claim that I have perfect kids, but I'm very proud of them. I am sure those of you who have children will probably be proud of them too. I am sure you also want the best for your kids. In that, we are no different.
Lo que es diferente es el sistema que no me permite solicitar una licencia de conducir en la Secretaría del Estado. Sé conducir y tengo el conocimiento para aprobar un examen escrito y de manejo. Mi hija mayor está empezando a conducir y me encantaría darle lecciones sobre cómo hacerlo de manera segura. Me preocupa mucho que aprenda a conducir con precaución, especialmente al manejar en la nieve.
What is different in the system that doesn't let me apply for a driver's license at the Secretary of State? I know how to drive. I have the knowledge to pass a written and a driving test. My oldest son is starting to learn how to drive, and I would love to give him lessons on how to do it safely. I am very concerned that he learns how to drive with caution, especially in the snow.
Antes del 2018, solía tener una licencia de conducir y estaba muy involucrada en las actividades de mis hijos. Fui voluntaria en las escuelas de mis hijos. Todos los maestros y administradores de sus escuelas me conocían por mi nombre y siempre estaba involucrado en excursiones y actividades escolares. No puedo participar más sin una identificación de Michigan o licencia de conducir.
Before 2008, I used to have a driver's license and I was very involved in my kids' activities. I was a volunteer at my children's schools. All the teachers and administrators at the school knew me by name, and I was always involved on field trips and with school activities. I can no longer participate anymore without a Michigan ID or a driver's license.
Soy uno de los 130,000 habitantes de Michigan que quieren ser reconocidos como participantes de las actividades de la vida cotidiana, ya que hacemos todo lo demás como trabajar, comprar y pagar impuestos. Queremos conducir sin miedo y no vivir bajo la presión de que podamos ser perseguidos por la policía, detenernos y separarnos de nuestras familias. Si algún día necesitamos conducir por una emergencia y todos los miembros de la familia, incluidos nuestros hijos, saben que puede suceder.
I am one of 130,000 Michiganders that want to be recognized as a full participant in everyday life activities, since we do everything else already, like working, buying, and paying taxes. We want to drive without fear and live under no pressure that we could get stopped, detained, and be separated from our families if one day we need to drive for an emergency. And every family member, including our children, know it can happen.
Nuestros niños están sentados en la escuela tratando de concentrarse en su trabajo, sabiendo de que sus padres y seres queridos podrían estar manejando para comprar comestibles, al médico o al trabajo, y la policía los detiene por una violación de tráfico de rutina, como no señalar o una luz trasera rota. Nuestros hijos internalizan este miedo y se preguntan cuáles de sus padres son los siguientes.
Our children are sitting in school trying to focus on their work, knowing that their parents and loved ones could be driving to get groceries or to go to the doctor or go to work, and get stopped by the police for a routine traffic violation, like failing to signal or a broken taillight. Our children internalize that fear and wonder which one of their parents are next.
La falta de una licencia combinada con la violencia de ICE que ocurre diariamente en nuestra ciudad está traumatizando a toda una generación de hijos e hijas de inmigrantes, lo que a su vez afecta su aprendizaje y en nuestras escuelas. La aprobación de una resolución para respaldar las licencias de conducir para personas indocumentadas les permite a esos niños y a sus familias saber que no están solos, que alguien se preocupa por su preocupación y miedo y está haciendo algo al respecto.
The lack of a license combined with ICE violence that goes on daily in our city is traumatizing a whole generation of sons and daughters of immigrants, which in turn affects their learning in our schools. Passing a resolution to support a driver's license for undocumented folks lets those children and families know that they are not alone, that someone cares about their worry and fear and is doing something about it.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Guillermo Lopez, followed by Al Flores.
Afternoon, State Board
You're
of
switched, right?
Education members. I'm sorry.
Are you Mr. Flores?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Flores. Yes. Good afternoon. My name's Alberto Flores. I am the state president of LEAD. It's the Latino Leaders for the Enhancement of Advocacy and Development. And we've been advocating in different areas on behalf of Latinos in the state, from high school to prison pipeline to hate crimes and bias incidents. And by the way, some of them happening in the schools, okay? But here today, we're here for a very important reason also, and that's the driver's license for all legislation. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons why we should have that, because everybody else has done a very good job in laying everything out for you. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Guillermo Lopez. He is the president of our LEAD Lansing chapter. Guillermo?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board, Superintendent Rice. How are you? Great. Yes, and I want to congratulate the woman. Felicidades. She spoke very well, and she really emphasizes the need of individuals to have a driver's license for a lot of things. I'm a school board member. I'm not speaking for the board, but I am a school board member that does talk to individuals on a daily or weekly basis. Those individuals who are not able to come to teacher conferences, to when the child needs a parent, they have to find a ride or somebody to bring him, and it's really cumbersome and really it's a shame. So as a school board member, I see these things live. There's no reason why we couldn't have a driver's license. It makes sense for safety, for the economy, and so that when something happens, an individual who needs help can be identified properly and proper service given to them. So there are many things that are involved in this. It's a human right, really. I mean, when you think about it, you got to have that in order to take care of daily life, daily business with your family and with others, and to fulfill your employment and other needs that people have to have in this country. So I fully support all the statements that have been given here from Merck, from Lady, from others, advocates, Cosecha, because we're at a point where, we're hurting people. People are being hurt, and we need to stop that. And I would urge your support for this legislation that's coming up, and hope that you can persuade some of our legislators who, in effect, hire a lot of these people. Okay, and so it's kind of well, it's just not right. This folks hire them, but they don't want folks to have the needs they need to be able to fulfill their requirements. So thank you very much for listening to us. We would just wanted to show our support for this very important legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is James Nicholas Girondists.
I will stand instead of sitting so you can hear me a little bit better. I'm an educator, 36 years with young people, which was a privilege, kindergarten through high school, all levels, all subjects, including autism, ADHD, bipolar, dyslexia, by request from parents. I'm here today for a completely different ball game from what you've just heard. And what I have to say affects every single one of you in this room right now. I want to talk to you about cognitive decline, processed foods, refined sugars. What I want to do then, since I have a short period of time only, is read what I've got here. Each of the school board members will be receiving a complete packet from me, including what I'm going to read here. I would like them to take it home and during the next month to read it carefully and then invite me back to learn even more on this topic. It's a very dangerous topic for every single one of you. My name is James Nicholas Girondists. And by the way, if my students wanted to call me Mr. G, they had 2 shots to spell that correctly. 100% success from 3rd grade on up. I had very high standards of myself. My students learned that they also were expected high standards, and that's the way it worked for me. That's why, for me, 36 years was a privilege, not a job. I was born and raised in what I call God's special country. That's above the bridge. I'm starting with the state of Michigan since I was born in Michigan. But what I'm talking about today, I want to get throughout the entire country, all states. I presently have 150 plus contacts in 18 states that get materials weekly from me, 6 articles a week dealing with nutrition and deadly toxins in our society. I'm concerned with everyone, older folks, younger, middle-aged, all of you. School board will be getting from me 2 stories. So let me read what I have here as such. Be not quicker and easier because of the time limit. I have been and still am an educator, instructor, only a teacher when my students were actually learning, and unfortunately, that was not 100% of the time. Officially, I've worked with students for 36 years, all levels, all subjects, K through 12. Autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and bipolar by parent request. When I say I'm referring to my better half who is deceased, and that's why I'm here today. Our personal background is explained in detail in the first story I would like you to read. and it's entitled Unsuspecting. The second is the story called The Rose of My Life. I wrote that story thinking maybe I would go before my wife. If I asked you what a PID is, many of you would not know what it is. It's a profound intellectual disability. If you look it up in the dictionary, it means idiot. 90+% of the drivers out there on these roads are PID. So I could have been killed, injured, maimed many times just going from in the Grand Ledge area over to Independence Village, and I might have been lost my life before my wife did. So I wrote the second one called The Rose of My Life, which you're going to be able to read, all the board members. And by the way, when I write, I don't do drafts. I write. I don't write every day. I don't write at certain times. Why am I here today? Each and every one of us is living in a very dangerous society today, no matter what our chronological age is. The majority of diseases and symptoms of both mental and physical decline, and what that means is irregular human behavior, start with the inflammation of the gut. What you put into your stomach, you reap. Over time, what to eat and feed our families are in reality life and death decisions. Inflammation of the gut leads us to its causes: processed foods and refined sugars. Add very deadly toxins in today's world into the mix, and thus very serious health consequences are and will continue to occur on a large scale. I am presently sending 6 articles per week to over 156 recipients in 18 states dealing with nutrition and deadly toxins and how to live longer, healthier lives. Now, this is for the board members. Please feel free to contact yours truly as both board members and as individuals truly concerned for the future of loved ones, friends, etc. My telephone number is listed on the sheet and my email address. And by the way, which makes my favorite nephew very happy, I now have an answering machine. I do not believe in all the gadgets that are out there these days. There's too much technology and not enough personal communication. You notice I'm talking to you. There are 2 advantages over tweeting, texting, and so on. You hear the tone of my voice, and you see the expression on my face. You don't get that any other way. That's how I operate with my students. Now, the second part of what they're going to get from me are some samples of articles that I've sent to recipients, which, by the way, I started all this in August of 2018.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are you ready to wrap up?
Yes.
The time is up. Thank you.
Samples are 56 names for sugar, 15 amazing benefits of lemons, is corn healthy, and 4 sugar alternatives. And by the way, as a week ago, New York City, with 117 schools, has started the process of getting rid of processed meats in the schools. Also, if you know
Thank you,
Meryl
sir.
Streep,
Thank you, sir.
if you know Meryl Streep, and if you know Willie Nelson, there's 2 articles for you to read of what they have to say about this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And in Greek, it's off at a stove, pull in.
Thank you very much to all of our public presenters. The next item on the Committee of the Whole agenda is a presentation on early middle college and dual enrollment post-secondary credit earning opportunities. This presentation will provide information on early middle college and dual enrollment credit opportunities. This presentation is informational and requires no board action. There will be an additional presentation on post-secondary credit earning opportunities in January. Board, this is the latest in a series of board presentations to inform the board and the public of the progress being made in Michigan public education. 2 months ago, the board heard about the increase in quantity and quality of Great Start Readiness Program participants in the state. Michigan is tied for first in the country in quality rating for our publicly funded preschool program. Last month, the board heard about expansions in career and technical education programming in Michigan, a 75% increase in CTE program completers, an increase from 27,000 to 47,000 students in the last 4 years. The board also heard me mention an increase in our national NAEP fourth grade reading rank nationally from 41st in 2015 to tied for 35th in 2017 to 32nd this year. It also heard me mention that our 8th grade reading rank increased from 31st in 2015 to 30th in 2017 to 28th in 2019. This month, the board will hear about our early middle college programming and our dual enrollment programming. In the last 4 years, the number of students participating in early middle college has doubled. It has also increased in terms of dual enrollment. Increases in CTE, dual enrollment, and early middle college are all supportive of the governor's 60 by 30 initiative, 60% of our adults having a post-secondary credential by 2030. That is a goal that is going to challenge all of us in the state of Michigan. It's going to require all of us to pull together so that all of our people are able to have rich experiences in adulthood and to support their families. Here to present to us today are Dr. Scott Kenichknecht, Deputy Superintendent P20 System and Student Transitions, and Dr. Brian Piles, Director of the Office of Career and Technical Education. Gentlemen, welcome.
Great, thank you, Dr. Rice, and thank you, Board, for allowing us to share some information with you this afternoon, again, regarding early middle college and dual enrollment, but specifically the post-secondary credit earning opportunities that our students across the state of Michigan are currently pursuing. So I will start the presentation with numbers. And so if you are a numbers person, you're going to like that. I'll hand it off to Dr. Piles, who's going to talk a little bit more about the specifics regarding the programs themselves and what those programs look like across the state. So we'll start with the first slide, and Dr. Rice alluded to this fact, and now you can see the actual numbers associated with it. The 4-year trend for early middle college student enrollment has doubled. So in 14-15 on the left, we had about 6,485 students participating in these programs, and in 18-19, as we wrapped up last year, that number has doubled up to about a little over 13,000. Again, Dr. Piles will talk to you about the 3 types of early middle college programs there are across the state. But the message is pretty clear in that we've seen 100% increase, a little over 100% increase in those 4 years. And so more students accessing these types of programs, earning more college credits, which we'll have some more information to come. So in terms of the numbers of programs themselves, the story remains the same. Significant growth in these programs. So 4-year number of early middle college programs from 14-15 to 18-19, these two doubled, more than doubled in size. And again, Brian will talk about the specificity of each type of early middle college program, but the trend is clear. We continue to see large increases in students accessing these, and so the program increase equates to over 100%, 112%. So how many college credits are students earning on average when they participate in these early middle college programs? And again, the numbers are in front of you, and the number is significant. On average, the latest data year that we have is 17-18. The average early middle college student earned almost 40 college credits during their early and middle college experience while in high school. The number you can see trends down. The explanation for the trend is that more kids entered the system, and by more kids participating in those early middle college programs, it drove that average number of credits down slightly from 43 credits to almost 40 credits. We do not have data for 18-19. We are waiting on CEPI for that data. That data typically arrives sometime in January for a March reporting area. So I wanted to kind of set the stage with the growth, not only in the number of students participating, but the number of programs, and then the number of credits earned on average by students in these settings. So I'm going to turn over to Dr. Piles. He's going to go back and talk specifically about what are these early middle college opportunities.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. With our early middle college programs,
It's designed for the pupil to begin as early as ninth grade, although many of the programs begin in the 11th grade. The goal is for them to earn a high school diploma along with 60 transferable credits to a four-year degree program with a Michigan university, an associate's degree from an early middle college, a professional certificate, or what we call the Michigan Early College Association Emc certificate, and the right to participate in an apprenticeship. I'll be explaining each of these as we go through the next slides. Each of these programs is delivered in three different program types. We have early, middle, college, high schools, and that program started with Dr. Cherry Wagenlander at Emc Community College. She was the pioneer here in the state of Michigan, and it's where 100% of the pupils attend the early, middle, college school. And so what the students will do is they'll leave their district of residence, and they will go to an early, middle, college school. Many of those students start in the ninth grade, although it's not restricted to starting in the ninth grade, and they stay there through the end of their fifth year. And then a number of years ago, we were approached, and I believe it's when Dr. Kiesler was in charge of CTE and EMC, by some school districts asking if we would start programs and allow for a modified option of an early middle college experience across to all of our schools in the state of Michigan, where students would not be required to leave their district of residence. And that is where we've seen the largest percentage of our growth over time. And in this program, it's less than 100% of the students in the high school participate in the program. It's often called a school within a school. And then the Emc Consortiums started. Many of our school districts need to come together in order to provide an educational opportunity to the students in their district with other districts that they could not economically afford on their own. Many of these programs are organized with multiple schools through an intermediate school district, but not exclusively through an intermediate school district. There are a few other combinations where they'll pick one agency that will be the coordinating agency for all of the different districts. But most commonly through the ISDs is our intermediate school district. One of the benefits that we have here in the state of Michigan with our structure is being able to have that economy of scale and to provide those services to local school districts and thus local students. Some examples of EMC high schools, one that I had mentioned was Mott Middle College by Dr. Cherry Wagenlander. The first one was ever created. But we also have, if you look at the list on the screen, a few from across the state that we chose to list. And one is Oakland Early College, and it combines both the high school and college experience in a standalone program. And it's taught by teachers from West Bloomfield High School and Oakland Community College's Orchard Ridge campus. And so the program is taught on the Oakland Community College campus with the West Bloomfield teachers coming in. We already have the Oakland Community College faculty there, and students in this small learning environment, they have an opportunity to earn up to 60 transferable credits toward their undergraduate degree or an associate's degree from Oakland Community College. And this is an example where 100% of the students are in a standalone school. You can see a list of programs on the screen. The EMC program model where less than 100% of the students from a particular school building are involved. I referred that to as a school within a school. And if we look over to Birch Run Early College, they have a partnership with Mott Community College where the students can earn their associate's degree and or up to 2 years of transferable credit. And so you can see that between the schools that are standalone, all the students within the structure are involved, we're replicating that same experience for students within a traditional school setting that don't necessarily want to leave their school building. And there's a really important part of Americana for a lot of individuals, and they want to stay within their school district. And then the EMC Consortium Programs, thank you. We have several of those across the state. I sit before you. I started the Berrien County fifth-year early middle college, and also not listed, I also started the Genesee CTE early middle college over in Genesee County. A couple of proud accomplishments of mine. I'm excited about the work that they're doing. But that's where one agency puts together an experience that helps students from across so many different districts. I'd like to highlight Van Buren Middle College in this example, where they have students that are earning the 60-plus transferable credits. They have students earning an associate's degree is EMTs and medical assisting, and all their students are also earning what I referred to earlier, the Emc certificate. And so they're providing a lot of opportunities. Each of these delivery options have the same type of expected outcomes. And the students either earn an associate's degree, the Emc certificate, a professional certificate, or 60 transferable credits, in addition to their high school diploma. When you look at the screen, you'll see 5 different early middle colleges listed, and you'll see that students are earning associate's degree in applied sciences and criminal justice, an associate of science, welding, industrial maintenance. I didn't focus in on any one particular degree because I really wanted you to see the variety of associate degrees that students are earning across our state. And it's providing a lot of options for students to make their choices and to complete these experiences 1 year after high school. And so it gets the students on a faster path to graduation. The early middle college certificate, the Emc certificate as we commonly refer to it, was put into place so that we could really differentiate instruction for children. This is an opportunity for students that might look at the other types of options and say, you know what, I really want to begin this, but I don't know if I can get 60 credit hours. I don't know if I can get an associate's degree. But we in Michigan want to provide opportunities for all of our students. Whether they're the student that wants to get the 60 credits in liberal arts, because we want to support the student that wants that traditional liberal art education as much as we want to support that student that wants to begin working on their automotive certifications if they can't get all 8 to become a master mechanic. We want to provide opportunities for all children. The Emc certificate helps support that. And when you look at the Emc certificate, the student must receive their high school diploma. The school district must come before the Emc board and have their college career readiness curriculum approved. So the Department of Education, we approve these programs, and then 2 to 3 years later, they come to us and say, here are all the wraparound services and support services and transitional activities we're doing to make sure the students are going to be successful, providing them with everything that they need. So not only does it provide the student with an option, but it also provides us here at MDE, working with MEMCA, an opportunity to learn about what some of our best practice programs are doing. And also, some of them do get to come back for a little bit of remediation. So it's a great technical assistance opportunity for us. And they must complete at least 15 transferable credit hours in non-remedial courses. So maybe that student who's struggling a little bit and needs to take a little bit of a slower pace, we give them that nice slow startup, that supported startup that they might not get in a traditional higher education institution. You can also see they have to participate in community service and also career exploration, internships, job shadowing, et cetera. And so for a student that might come into this experience and they have the ability to complete all the college coursework, but they just haven't yet through student career development planning determined what I'd like to do, here's an option for that student too. And this is one of the beauties of having an early middle college program like we do in Michigan. There's just a wide variety of opportunities to service all of our children. When we look at the expected outcomes, and we look at some of the schools that are reaching those expected outcomes, you'll see that I listed 5 there that are offering the early middle college certificate. There are many more. When we look at the professional certifications, you'll see that up in Alpena, a student finished their LPN. Now, for those of you that are well-versed in the medical field and the requirements for nursing, with an LPN, there are certain medical environments that you can practice in as a nurse. However, the JCO Association, which credits our hospitals, requires our nurses to have their BSNs. But what a great opportunity for our children to be able to get that first level of nursing. And then, for example, at Mock Community College, once they get that LPN, they have about a dozen different options, I believe, to go finish that BSN, many of which are online. And so we're really supporting our students throughout. And then the 60 transferable credits, I'm going to actually read from some information I received. I was reaching out to some of our partners that offer phenomenal programs. And this would be the Capital Region Technical Early College, which assists students in Ingham, Clinton, and Eaton counties. And right here, Director Szymanski is the leader of that program. She asked if she could be in attendance today. And of course, we always welcome people to our state board meetings. A student from Eaton Rapids completed the EMC program last year through Eaton RESA and Davenport University. She took the Eaton RESA Business Academy class in 11th grade and then continued in the early college to earn her associate's degree in business administration with high honors. She left the early college program with 65 direct credits and 20 articulated credits for a total of 85. She is continuing this year at Davenport and is expected to graduate this spring with a Bachelor's of Business Administration and Human Resources. At this time, she has received enough student aid in grants and scholarships that she'll graduate from college debt-free. Now that's the power of 60-plus transferable credits and things that we can do for our children at both ends of the spectrum and throughout, helping all of our kids. And Director Szymanski, we appreciate all that you do in your consortium to support children.
So as Dr. Rice had said, we started these conversations last month with some data and information around post-secondary credit opportunities with regard to career and technical education. You've just heard now about post-secondary credit earning opportunities for early and middle colleges. And what we'd like to do is wrap up to talk about those opportunities through the lens of dual enrollment, which many of you may be familiar with. So we have some information regarding dual enrollment that we would like to share with you that will show the continued positive trend of students accessing these types of programs. So dual enrollment, I won't read the slide, but it's high school students in high school taking college courses, sometimes online, sometimes face-to-face, and in a couple of different modes. At times, these courses may be taught by community college instructors or college instructors. There are other times where the community college will, and my term I use is deputize, high school instructors. It's a little more formal than that because they have to meet certain requirements. And the high school instructors provide that opportunity, and the students earn the college credit. So there's a number of ways to do that. Most often known as dual enrollment, also can be known as concurrent enrollment. These types of courses are kind of the one-time courses. Most often they're not a formal program of study, but still another opportunity for students to earn college credits while in high school. In the data, you will see, again, continued positive growth. We have 4 years of data, baseline, and 3 others. We don't have our 18-19 data yet. Again, we're waiting on CEPI. Typically, we receive that around January for a March 1st reporting deadline. But the numbers from 14-15 through 17-18 show an increase in average number of credits earned by students who are participating in dual enrollment. So the number of college credits earned are going up. You will also see, one of our final slides is the actual number of students participating in dual enrollment is on the increase. I won't read the slide, but you can see the baseline at 23,422. Again, latest information we have is over 28, almost 29,000, which signifies a 23% increase in 3 years. And you think about that, the number of students accessing these programs and how that's increasing exponentially is pretty exciting for us. So that is the information that we have regarding EMCs or early middle colleges and dual enrollment. And I or Dr. Powell will certainly field any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Board, questions, comments, thoughts? Ms. Lupe Ramos Montini.
Of course, I'm a strong advocate of such programs. Now, How were the different schools selected?
For the ones that we put on the screen?
Right.
I sat down with the early middle college consultant and said, let's pick some schools for each one of these sections, and let's try and get some good geographical representation. All of the programs are listed on our early middle college website.
Because I didn't see the ISD there. I saw Van Buren from, that side of the state. Were there others from the other side of the state?
Intermediate school districts?
Right, that were participating in the program.
Yes, there was one, Genesee Counties is listed, but they call it something different than Genesee ISD. Oakland Counties was listed, but they call it something different. And so the name of the early middle college, unlike when you look at our school districts and it's Oakland Schools and Clarkston Community Schools, we allow them to name their early middle college whatever they would like to, whether it be at the intermediate school district level or at the school district level, which makes it a little bit harder for people to identify. But we can send you a list of all of them.
No, that's good work. They're doing good work.
I would
Thank
like
you.
the list.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
You bet.
Other questions or comments from board members? Dr. Pritchett.
Thank you. Dual enrollment, having worked in the high schools and worked with counselors, I know there's always kind of a, kids don't like to leave their high schools. And so some schools have been able to, as you indicated, Dr. Kenishnek, deputize high school teachers in order to teach the content. So that is kind of the plus that there's transportation issues, students trying to get to a college campus, et cetera. I'm not trying to discount the importance of having the experience of the college campus, but when we're dealing with dual enrollment, normally it's one or two classes that a student's trying to pick up. Do we have any sense, any data out there of how many circumstances we have where high school teachers have been deputized in order to be able to provide those classes? Because I see that sometimes as a hindrance for high school kids. They can't fit it into their schedule, they're involved in extracurricular, et cetera, and if it could be offered at the high school in that building, obviously the syllabus from the college or the community college. I just wondered if you had any data on that.
I don't believe that we collect that data. We could ask something, but I don't believe we collect that data. What I can tell you is that Davison High School over in Genesee County, they have college faculty coming to the campus, high school campus, and teaching courses. Clarkston Community Schools is going to start working with what's called the DEEP program at University of Michigan Flint, and their faculty members are going to come down. I know at Genesee County, at the Genesee County CTE Early Middle College program, the students they come into on the transportation system designed for the CTE programs, and then their dual enrollment courses for their current tech at early middle college are offered during a second session right on campus where the faculty come in. There are several situations, but we don't collect any data that I'm aware of on that, but it's starting to grow in popularity exactly for the reason that you mentioned, transportation.
Thank you. President Ulrich.
So I can tell you the reason you don't see that a lot is because it comes down to accreditation from the colleges. HLC, if you deputize high school teachers and they don't have the qualifications that are generally required of someone teaching a college level credit, then the college itself could be in jeopardy of losing their accreditation through HLC.
Other thoughts or questions? Ms. Snyder.
Just a statement. I'm excited for students. I think that this is a great opportunity. It's kind of neat to hear that it's like a little bit different in each area, but that I guess that's the beauty of local control kind of shining through in this particular area is that you make it work. And it's an opportunity for students to grow, and I think that's great. I think it's great.
Very much. Other board members, other thoughts? Going once. Ms. Lahi, thoughts?
I didn't know that early middle college was a thing, so I just learned a new thing today. I'm just,
It is a thing, and we are pleased to raise that thing to consciousness.
I'll tell more people.
Absolutely. That's a good thing. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr. Rice.
you.
Thank you, Board.
Have a good day, everyone.
We now turn in our agenda to approval of State Board of Education minutes. I please have a motion to approve the minutes of November 12th, 2019. So moved by Ms. Ramos Montini, seconded by Dr. Pritchett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Won't try that again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I was not here, so.
Fair enough. I hear no nays. I hear one abstention from our president. The ayes have it. Report of the president.
So just a quick recap of earlier today, we talked about the A through F and something that, of course, the majority of us, if not all of us, have said we're not in support of, but yet we are sitting here having these conversations. The other side of that, of course, is the parent dashboard hit a huge milestone last week, and that that entity that we've spent a lot of time working on, and the department has spent a ton of time working on, hit 2 million page views since January of 2018. So clearly, that is actually being utilized and helpful for parents in the state of Michigan. So congratulations on that. I had some travel over the last couple of months. I was in Indianapolis for the Midwest Higher Education Compact meeting, and then just last week in Denver for the Education Commission of the States meeting with Sheila Alice. So both of those were very good, and Michigan was well represented. The last thing that I want to talk about is the Federal Charter School Grant Program. As you may remember, in May, this board rejected the grant criteria for the latest round of the Federal Charter School Grant Program. And at that time, I indicated that I wanted to take a closer look at the last round of the grants, as a report had just been released that questioned the program itself, and we were kind of questioning whether or not there was a need, at least I was, for the next round. So I requested information related to all of the grants that went to entities that had received money but had never opened a school here in the state of Michigan. And after I received the first round of information, I followed that up with a request to review some additional documentation from some of the payments from those grants. And since then, as you know, the Attorney General's office gave the green light to the department to go ahead and move forward, and the department has been awarding grants through this program. But I wanted to circle back with the board at this time for two reasons. One, there was a follow-up report to the original that just came out yesterday, and it's called Still Asleep at the Wheel, and I'll talk more about that shortly. But second, that report highlights a lot of the questionable practices that I kind of found in my review. And so I wanted to just give you a little bit of overview of what I found and why I continue to have major concerns about this entire program, not just here in Michigan, but on the federal level as well. And just keep in mind, I only looked at those entities that took out money and never opened a school. So I have not looked at the ones that took out money and opened a school and maybe closed it, or opened a school and it is successfully running today. I would just say the most disturbing thing that I found from reviewing the documentation from these grants was that there really appeared to be no prohibition on conflicts of interest. So some of the grantees not only paid themselves with grant money, but they were paying family members as well, and in some cases their own companies. And they would list these things as either consulting services or grant management services. In one case, a grantee paid their own property holding company over $70,000 of a $100,000 grant for quote-unquote curriculum and grant management fees. So I just found this really disturbing, and much of what I found was just reported yesterday in this new report called Still Asleep at the Wheel, and they basically updated their numbers to say that over $1 billion of this grant at the federal level has been spent on schools that either never opened or opened and then closed. So if you're interested in reading more, there was an article in yesterday's Washington Post. I'm sure you'll hear more about it moving forward, but I just want to say that as a board member, I personally feel like I drop I dropped a ball somewhere along the lines here. I didn't ask the questions when I think I should have, but the reality is I didn't know what I didn't know. But I can't make that claim anymore. And so I just want to say that moving forward, I will be asking questions about this grant program. And I think that we all need to make sure that we're being very, very transparent. Because we can't change what happened in the past, but we certainly have the ability moving forward to make sure that things are on the up and up. I mean, these are taxpayer funds, and we need to make sure they're being spent appropriately, transparently, and with some level of accountability. I would also suggest to the department that this is an area in which the state's Auditor General needs to review to ensure that information is being collected and appropriately questioned when needed, and that our staff has the authority to ask those questions when they think a red flag might be appearing. I want them to be able to have that authority, and I want to make sure at the state level that they have that authority and they have the protection to do that. And so I'll just wrap up by saying at the end of the day, I think we just need to remember that this is taxpayer money, and we on the board are the representatives of the taxpayers. And so we need to do a better job, and I need to do a better job, and I will be doing a better job moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Report of the state superintendent will be uncharacteristically brief. Nick Peruski, CTE teacher and coordinator at Lakeland High School in the Huron Valley Public Schools, was honored with the Milken Award last week. It was a pleasure to be on hand with Dr. Judy Pritchett to help honor him in the surprise announcement. And what an amazing, well-deserved surprise it was. 1,400 kids in an auditorium, and they have no idea why they are there. Ms. Lahi, do you know something about that?
A little bit, maybe.
Yeah. And what a great moment it is. We need more of those moments to celebrate our great educators and celebrate all that they do to support our kids across the state. It was an honor to be there for that opportunity. I'd like to echo what our board president said about the parent dashboard. That is it's a signature moment for us. 2 million hits. I mean, consider that a few years ago there was no there. There was no parent dashboard, and you conceived this out of whole cloth. So kudos to you. Kudos to our former state superintendent, Brian Whiston. May he rest in peace, as well as the MDE staff. It really is an accomplishment to have a parent dashboard that is regularly viewed and reviewed by our parents and others in the community. We have begun interviews associated with our top 10 and 10 review and update. I've had the opportunity to do several of those interviews myself with Kelly Siciliano Carter. We've interviewed some legislative leaders. We've interviewed some labor leaders. We've interviewed some business leaders. We'll be interviewing a few more people. Board, you will be getting an outreach from Karen Carefoot in my office to set up your one-on-one phone interview for the coming several weeks. And then we will begin our formal work here in this room in January on top 10 review and update. Additionally, our survey on top 10 in 10 review and update will be going out to the community in January. So more to look forward to on top 10. We need a strategic plan, as we've discussed, that is narrower, deeper, streamlined, more accessible from the perspective of language, and that includes metrics that we aspire to attain in our work. Finally, relative to the issue that our president raised at this meeting, the board should be aware that I have asked the Office of the Internal Audit Services to begin an audit in this area. I do think that it is appropriate. We raised the issue a couple of months ago and recently had another meeting, and that work will begin in January. I wish everybody happy holidays. I hope they are both happy and healthy. I also hope that they are safe. Ms. Kara Lougheed, the 2019-2020 Michigan Teacher of the Year, will present her report. Ms. Lougheed is an English, Language Arts, and History teacher at Stony Creek High School in Rochester Community Schools. And if one is good, two is better, and three is best. Ms. Lougheed is joined by Ms. Crystalline Musselman, Region 8 Teacher of the Year. Ms. Musselman is a health and leadership teacher at Tecumseh High School. I also appreciate the opportunity to welcome Mr. Douglas Duncan, Region 7 Teacher of the Year from the Kalamazoo Public Schools. Mr. Duncan teaches art to students at Prairie Ridge Elementary School and at Indian Prairie Elementary School. Gentle people, welcome.
So we're going to share my report today. I'll start out, and then Crystalline, and then Doug. Crystalline was supposed to be with me last month, but we all know what happened last month with all the snow, so you get us all today. Just to kind of update you on what I've been doing, I am part of the Governor's Educator Advisory Council. I couldn't go in October because I had another commitment with the Teachers of the Year, and so I went in November. These are the things that they want us to be working on: Poet Laureate, teacher recruitment and retention, and then they want some feedback from educators on the proposed changes to the Michigan Merit Curriculum, so SB 600 and 601. Our next meeting is next week. What I'm realizing my role is really to make connections between all these different groups that I come into contact with, because a lot of them are talking about the same things, but they don't know each other. So I'm trying to help make those connections. So this is what I've been up to in October and November. I have actually been going to a lot of career and tech programs, mostly because I never get to do that. I teach English and history in a very traditional high school. And so I have visited OTEC, their Northeast campus in Pontiac. I went out to Armada High School, which is actually pretty close to where I live. I spent some time learning about the Teacher Cadet program at Oakland University. I went to Clarkson Schools, where they have a CTE program in their junior high. I also visited Malcolm High School up in Sault Ste. Marie, and Brimley, also up in the UP. My husband's family's from up there, so that was fun to visit some schools near where he grew up. These are just some pictures of what I've been doing. You might recognize that guy, Paul Galbensky. He was the 2012 Teacher of the Year, so maybe some of you know him. These are just some of the things that we saw while we were there. That was a student working on circuits, and evidently he was doing something very advanced for a student, but I didn't totally understand what he was doing, but we were all very impressed. And then I just wanted to show you this real quick. This is the construction tech program there, and it's actually at Pontiac High School. James Sweeney and Aaron Sweat run it. And what I thought was really profound is, as he was talking to us about it, he was talking about how sometimes traditional school is not the best fit, and that these students come to him and they learn to use their hands and they learn to communicate in a different way, and they find their inspiration and their passion. And it just warmed my heart to hear that, because I do see kids where the traditional model is not working. And then every single program at OTEC has this tree. The leaves represent students' goals, and the blossoms down at the bottom are students who have come back to tell everyone what their jobs are now. This one was from health sciences. But if you get a chance, if you haven't ever visited an OTEC facility, it's pretty fantastic. The other thing that I did is learn more about teacher cadets, or future teachers, or whatever you want to call it. It seems that everyone wants to know more about how to create and support an educator pipeline. The Office of Career and Tech here with Candace Vincent has been so helpful in helping me learn more about this. The Office of Educator Excellence is very much interested in making this happen. The Governor's Educator Advisory Council, Regional Teachers of the Year, we've been talking about it in our meetings as well. My own district is starting a future educators class in the fall. That's Rochester. So I think the sum of that is that all these people need to be working together to make this happen instead of working separately. So I hope that I can be a part of making that happen. So I'm going to pass it on to Crystalline.
All right. So hello, my name is Crystalline Musselman. I am the Region 8 Teacher of the Year, representing, I live in Lenawee County, but I represent Lenawee, Hillsdale, Monroe, Jackson, Livingston, and Washtenaw County. I did my undergrad at Western Kentucky. I am from Michigan. I graduated from Portage Northern High School, and I played softball at Western Kentucky, so I was recruited. I had never heard of the college before, but I loved it down south. And then came back up north with my now husband and started teaching. I've been at Tecumseh High School. This is my 14th year. I did my master's at Eastern Michigan in special education in the area of learning disabilities. So that's where I started, was teaching special ed.
Yeah, and that works.
So I mentioned this is my 14th year. The first part of my career, I taught special ed and also alternative ed. We no longer have alternative ed. We actually have built that in within our high school. We have a pretty large virtual academy now, so a lot of kids that are doing credit recovery online. I currently teach health and leadership, and that is a picture of my beautiful high school. And if you're not familiar with Lenawee County, where Lenawee County is, it is in southeastern Michigan, so right next to Monroe County. So just a little bit about what I do along with teaching. I'm very much a champion for equality, especially as it relates to mental health and protecting our most marginalized students, specifically those who identify as LGBTQ. So as many of you can assume, school can be very different, very difficult. It can be a much tougher experience for some of our most marginalized kids. And, you know, it's our job in education to make sure we're doing everything we can to help and support all of our students. So I am the advisor of many clubs, too many. I don't say no very well. So I help to run our GSA. I also help to run our peer-to-peer, which is a group to support our students in our district with autism. I also am the advisor for SAD, our Students Against Destructive Decisions, and Link Crew, which is a program to help mentor our incoming freshmen. So I really think that creating opportunities for our kids to be connected to school is so important to getting them to come. If they're not coming to school, they're probably not learning. So if we can create some way for them to be connected and be involved in school, it really can do a lot to develop, you know, leadership and advocacy skills. So that's kind of where my passion lies. One last thing I was able to do as part of this, I was able to speak to student teachers at Eastern Michigan for their student teacher workshop. And the topic was how to create inclusive learning environments, which is something in teacher prep programs you don't ever hear about. So that was a really cool opportunity. I appreciated the chance to talk to some up-and-coming teachers about how to do that.
Great. I'm Doug Duncan, and I am the Region 7 Teacher of the Year. I am a second career teacher, this is my second career. I was in the graphic arts for 15 years. I went to Aquinas College to get initially certified, and I'm very glad that I got into the profession. I'm also a national board certified teacher, and I was just renewed this year, this November. It's a very rigorous process, but it's one that I believe in very strongly. I did work in the graphic arts for 15 years, and I think the things that I'm able to bring from the graphic arts was a high level of professionalism. It was computer graphics, so we always had to be relearning things. Seems like every week we had to learn something new. And I think that ties right in well with the teaching profession. We're always learning and always trying to strive to be better. I taught for 18 years in KPS, Kalamazoo Public Schools, and I chose to work in an urban district. I took a 40% pay cut actually to do so, and I'm happy I did. So I'm kind of here as an advocate for the arts, being a K through 5 art teacher. I would say the arts are a little neglected. In some ways, that's a good thing. They're neglected in the sense that we're not tested in a standardized way. However, sometimes we're neglected because we're not tested in a standardized way. We bring the PE, music, and art teachers, specialist teachers, bring a lot to our educational system, and I think sometimes we have to toot our own horn here. So I'm going to do that for just a moment. I'm going to just mention that the arts impart meaning and encourage struggling students. They help let students know that what they do matters. Sometimes they're the main reason some students want to come to school. us special teachers, we form important long-term relationships. Sometimes we see students from kindergarten through 5th grade for 6 years. So we might be the most stable force in their elementary education. I would say that there's a more eloquent speaker than I am here, and he's one of my heroes, Dr. Elliot Eisner. He's Stanford University Graduate School of Education professor, and he's written several books about education. Some of these quotes are near and dear to me, and I think they speak well to what education and art can mean together. And I would say, as long as we're talking to the school board, we might end with the very last one there, and I would just read it for you. The art's position in the school curriculum symbolizes to the young what adults believe is important.
I just also want to mention that Doug is making all of us mugs for all of the Teachers of the Year. He's actually crafted mugs, ceramic, for us, and he's working on them. Yeah. So he's and he just had an art show. Was that last week?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We couldn't go because we had to be someplace else, but he's pretty accomplished and pretty fantastic, and we're very glad he chose a second career too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on today's agenda is the state and federal legislative update. I'll turn this over to Board Member Lupe Ramos-Montini, the chairperson of the board's legislative committee.
Well, good afternoon again. I would like to start this part of the board meeting with the introduction of the committee members, which are Dr. Judy Pritchett, and the co-chair, and Ms. Nikki Snyder, the recorder. And then we have our MDE liaisons. We have Marty and Caroline, Stephen, and Marilyn. A great team we make together. So one of the goals that we have, that you see here that we have, is number one, create a proactive agenda. And that's what we have tried to do throughout the year, this school year. And so today, we are going to bring forth line items that have been proposed by the public and through me, and then I brought it to the legislative committee, and we decided that there were very important issues that had to come to the board. As you saw in the testimonies today, from school districts are starting to adopt policies, statements throughout the state from the east to the west. And I think they are opening the door for other school districts to dare to do the right thing. And so you also heard testimonies from citizens that are extremely very concerned about the climate and what's happening in the state. Now, we had invited the two main authors of the bill, and we're going to start with Senate Bill 631 and 632. On page 3, Drive Safe, and the Drive Safe is driver licenses for all. The two senators, Brinks and Chain, couldn't be here with us today because they're still in session. So they plan to come next month, but we're going to proceed with the introduction of this bill. And so, Marty, why don't you say what you want to report on this bill? And then we'll ask the board if you want we're not going to vote on anything today. We're going to bring it back in January with maybe statements of support, resolutions, but we need your guidance in some of these items as to what you see as something that we could use. Do we do we prepare a statement of support for whatever, or a resolution for whatever? So we will need some feedback from you as to how to proceed and bring it back in January. Okay, Marty?
So the bills are pretty straightforward. You heard during public comment, what the bills would allow, the issuance of driver's licenses and state identification cards to undocumented persons under certain circumstances. So that's, I mean, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. That's what they would allow to do. Not much more than that. And then there's Senate bills and there's similar bills that were introduced in the House.
So the bills for this, that the senators have introduced, they have just been introduced.
Correct.
Nothing else has occurred.
November 5th.
November 5th. And then the identical bills by the House, they were also introduced on the same day, and they referred to the House Transportation Committee. So that's where those bills are. And so, so a statement of support or resolution as to these bills, I think would be an appropriate thing to do. You heard all the different testimonies today, and that's what the two senators are requesting that we do. I have been communicating with the senators, and they asked me to ask you for a letter of support, and hopefully they're able to change some minds, or many minds, in the Senate and in the House, so these bills become a reality. So that's where that one is. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the list, which will be page 2. Okay, Marty?
So there has been some movement on the budget front between the legislature and the governor. When we discussed this back in the legislative committee meeting a few weeks ago, there had been nothing done, but as you note here, since the legislative committee met on November 19th, there's been an agreement. Supplemental bills are being passed in the legislature today, and what they do is they fund some of the vetoes that Governor Whitmer had made earlier in the year. And the list here is the education-related items that are included in the supplemental bills.
So an agreement has been made to restore these items right here.
That's correct.
I think they voted on it,
Yeah.
didn't they? Both of them today?
Today they voted on these, okay?
So what are the most controversial, outstanding items? I haven't read up on where we are with
Outstanding
everything.
meaning what?
It says some of the vetoed items. So where the supplement, so the budget items that are education related that still have not been moved on or won't be moved on.
Yeah, I'd have to check.
It's a lot of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you don't have that on the top of your head?
There's a lot of room up there, I see, but.
I know I spoke to President Quinn from Aquinas College, which is a private Catholic college, and he said that the Michigan tuition grant that has been held back is one that a lot of his students use, and he was hoping that they would restore that, so these students would continue going to school.
I think
Because
that
right
was
now-
restored.
It was restored?
I believe it was.
It was included.
Yeah, it was
In this here?
No,
That was higher ed.
that was higher ed.
It was restored as of today, or what?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, he's gonna be happy to hear that.
okay, good news.
Okay. All right. Okay, the next one is gonna be anti-bullying. This is one issue that the public is very, very concerned about. And they feel that it's becoming more potent in the schools, and not only physically or verbally, but also cyber, by social media and other means. And a lot, the people that I talk to, there's two sides to every story, but the many people that have talked to me say, well, we go to the school, they don't listen to us, we do this. So if I think we go to the school, they're gonna say the opposite. Yes, we have done this. So there's maybe a miscommunication. But as the committee went through, was talking about this one, we went to look for the policy or the guidelines that we had sent out to school districts, and that happened back in 2010. And so we felt that it was time to maybe revisit the document and possibly update it and resend it to the school districts as a reminder of this is a very, a big concern within the communities around the state. And just for us to be proactive and the educational leaders that we are statewide, so we wanted to resend. Once we look at it, if we need to revise it, revisit it, then we do that. And maybe we can do that and bring it back to you in January, so then you can take a good look. Or maybe we can send it out and then everybody looks at it and then they give us feedback, and then we can finalize the document. But we definitely need to do something because this is a topic that is very, very important to citizens and school districts all over the state.
Do this? I thought we added the restorative practices just earlier this
I
year.
asked the same question. Didn't we do with our code of conduct? Wasn't it some of this addressed?
Okay, well, we will, yeah, that is true. But we were talking about the bullying policy that we passed in 2010. And maybe that would, I think that one would restore more the climate of what's happening, not so much the bullying, or was that specifically for the bullying?
That was you responded when I asked that question.
Right.
And
So I think, is there a distinction that you draw between your model code of conduct and your model bullying policy?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So the model bullying policy was last addressed 9 years ago. And it predates Matt's law, which was approved the following year. It is absolutely legitimate to re-explore this a decade later, and minimally to reaffirm it, if not to perhaps improve upon it in certain ways. Remember that it was passed at a time, your model bullying policy or anti-bullying policy was passed at a time that was in the era of zero tolerance. So it was in a different era than the current era, which is a more redemptive era, a more restorative practices era that we have now. So you're going to want to reflect about the change in context, but it is absolutely legitimate a decade later, as we discussed on the phone, to re-explore this. Ms. Tilley.
The anti-bullying is something I was really pushing for when I first became a board member. I know California's laws are more progressive. Maybe that can be a model for us, something to take a look at. But not only updating the policies, actually giving recommendations to the legislators to change the laws here in Michigan, to make them more progressive and update those laws as well.
All right, very good. Thank you. Ms. Snyder, did you have something to share? No? Okay, very good.
Fine, but I'll probably discuss some more suggestions possibly for people to come and share as we continue to go down this road.
All right, very good. Dr. Pugh?
And as we're talking about sharing, if we could have some educators actually talk about how this plays out in the schools, not just how bullying impacts kids in the school day, but just the laws that or the policies and how those are playing out. Because I've heard that it makes it kind of complicated when you're implementing some of these policies.
Yes,
And
right.
it's not really solving the problem because the kids are coming back. So I would like to hear some of those issues as well.
Sort of like what we did today with the other one. You know, people coming out and saying what they're doing and that's working for them. Maybe we could
Or
have
some-
some
yeah.
people that are.
Or some of
Okay.
the limitations to implementing
Yeah,
current
right.
policies and
The
how we can improve
realities.
those. Yeah, right, the realities.
Oftentimes, what we experience in schools is our community issues that roll into the schools, and they're not resolved in community, and we're left to resolve them or struggle to resolve them in schools. Ms. Tilley?
I was going to say, in my own experience as a parent, when my daughter was in high school being bullied, they really didn't know what to do. The administration, they had no clue of really how to deal with it. After my daughter graduated, the schools were actually on the news because the bullying situation had gotten so bad, and it wasn't an isolated issue with my daughter. It was my daughter, it was her friends, it was, different grade levels. It was middle school, it was high school. One student actually posted a butcher knife with fake blood on it, as a threat. So it's something where not only do the policies need to be updated, but they need techniques on restorative practices, what they can do to help with the situations.
Very good, thank you. Other thoughts on this topic?
Marty, you have anything else? Okay, let's go to the changes in the Michigan Merit curriculum. And this is why the Chinese community was here, because they're very opposed to the change that they want to make as far as making or deleting foreign languages as a requirement for graduation, high school graduation.
So there are two Senate bills, Senate Bill 600 and 601, that have been reported out of the Senate Committee on Education and Career Readiness that would create a dramatic change in the Michigan Merit curriculum, removing health and physical education, visual arts, performing arts, applied arts, and foreign language from the Michigan Merit curriculum credit requirements and make those optional or electives. Like I said, those bills have been reported out of committee. They are on the Senate floor. We don't think they'll move in the remainder of this year. But there are several House bills also that would make smaller changes in the Michigan Merit curriculum, more particular ones like that were moved out of the House Ways and Means Committee today. So they're on the House floor also. So it looks like there's a lot of interest in revising or amending the Michigan Merit curriculum, and Dr. Rice presented to the Senate committee several weeks ago about the need to, I'll let you speak on it if you'd like.
Well, just the need to reflect more profoundly on this. This is a generational moment. We last passed Michigan Merit Curriculum 2006. We don't go down this road every year. We go down this road every generation. It would do well to take some time, spend a year, get it right. And because what we know is what we do now, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we're going to live with for a generation. I'm talking about kid generation now. I'm not talking about a broader generation. I'm talking about a 10, 12, 13-year kid generation. We need to get it right. And currently, the bills, however well-intentioned, don't have it right. So we need to much more broadly seek input from different groups of teachers, from our art teachers, our music teachers, our art teachers, our physical education teachers, our foreign language teachers, our world language teachers, our core content teachers, math, science, social studies, English language arts teachers. All of our teachers need to be involved because their careers and by extension the education of our young people moving forward are at stake. Ms. Lougheed, your thoughts?
So, as I mentioned earlier, the governor asked our committee to advise her office on on how to proceed with these changes. And so what we decided as a group is that we would collect some feedback from, like you said, from various educators. So everyone on our council is going to be sending, or is starting to sending out just a survey to like 10 educators in their circle. So that's all over the state, counselors, paraprofessionals, administrators, classroom teachers, anyone who we think would have an opinion about anything, and mostly with SB 600, because that's where the majority of it was. And I didn't know the other ones had moved out of committee because that just happened today. So our goal is to kind of get a lot of perspectives from, like you're saying, from a lot of different people, and take that apart and see if we can make some proposals for the governor. She doesn't have to listen to us, but that's what she has at her office has asked us to do. So that's what we're going to be working on. But I don't know if it gets voted on pretty quickly, then I don't know if it'll do any good. I don't know how fast.
Well, it was passed out of Senate committee.
Right.
But it hasn't been passed by the full Senate.
Right.
It hasn't been passed by the full House.
Okay. So we've got some time.
And they're not considering precisely the same things. So they'd have to be reconciled in some way, shape, or form, and the two bodies would have to pass the same bill. Our concern is not that they can't pass quickly, but that they ought not to pass quickly. That quick and smart aren't right. So we're supportive of your effort to seek broad input, to get it right. The Michigan Merit Curriculum was a signature accomplishment at the time. Probably went a step or two too far in the direction of four-year colleges and only four-year colleges. I think we devalued community colleges. We devalued apprenticeships and career and technical education. I think some of that has been addressed in amendment over the last several years. And what we know is there's more flexibility in the Michigan Merit Curriculum than people are always aware of. There is a conference. The Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals is having a conference in mid-January. MDE is co-sponsoring that conference. It is a conference on the Michigan Merit Curriculum. The first portion of that conference will be on the what currently exists, the descriptive. The second part of that conference in the afternoon will be on the normative, what should be. And that will give us another opportunity as an education community to reflect with several hundred secondary school principals, primarily, no pun intended, high school principals, to reflect upon what it should look like. Should there be perhaps more flexibility? Yes. Should it be so flexible as to be Gumby and pokey? If from a curriculum standpoint, not so much. Sorry, that was a dated reference. Some of you are looking at me without knowledge of Gumby and pokey. And for you, I have nothing to share in the cell phone era.
So is this an item that you think is going to move forward fast, or your conference is going to be able to lend a hand to the legislators before they make the decision? Do we make a letter of a statement of support or against, or how fast is this moving, and what is the urgency of our proactive input?
So it's a great question. We thought originally, as recently as yesterday, as close of business Friday, that this was on the fast track in the Senate. And we were called to a meeting yesterday in the Senate on these bills, and we're told that it will not be taken up in the full Senate for a vote until after the holidays. So there is a little bit of time. How much time is unclear. We really don't know. Again, we thought it was fast-tracked in the Senate. It's been slowed down a little bit. I think that there's a recognition, notwithstanding the fact that the committee approved what it did a couple of weeks ago. I think that there's a recognition that this is not ready for prime time. It's just not ready. We raised three concerns. One was the process concern. that you didn't canvass broadly the education and non-education community on what ought to be Michigan merit curriculum requirements. It used to be that we had a half a credit of civics required, and if you were able, a physical education requirement as well. We moved to 18 credits in the Michigan merit curriculum, 14 of the 18 in core content areas, math and English language arts, 4 credits, science and social studies, 3 credits. The balance of those credits, the 4 of the 18 in electives. We need some structure. There's some value, bless you, there's some value to some structure. There's some value to some rigor. This is not an argument in favor of any particular rigor at the table today. It is to say that to do this right, you ought to spend a year at it. We made the argument that you ought not to get rid of the personal curriculum. The personal curriculum is eliminated in these bills, not intelligent, not smart, unhelpful for our young people, not simply our special needs children, although very substantially our special needs children, but also our general education young people as well. And then finally, and there are many, many other arguments that we could have made, but we wanted to make sort of the broad strokes arguments that this isn't ready for prime time. The third argument that we made, Board, was that special needs children should have the ability to graduate with a Michigan Merit Curriculum diploma with modifications embedded in their IEPs. It's not to say it ought to be any child can graduate with any set of requirements that he or she wants to put into place. Not my point. But if your IEP specifically designates particular needs or modifications associated with the subject area or areas, that you ought to be able to graduate with a diploma, not a certificate of completion, but a diploma as a special needs student in the state of Michigan. And that is currently not permissible. And that needs to be addressed, and that is unmentioned in this bill. Now, we weren't prepared to have a full debate on this issue a few weeks ago, but we did want to mention that if you are going to approach a generational topic, you ought to do a generational job of it. Your generational moment should be accompanied by a generational process to generate a generational product. So we appreciate the work in our department quickly putting together the testimony. Caroline Lethan was actively involved in that. Steve DeGrow was actively involved in that. And all of our deputies and some of our directors were as well. We welcome the opportunity to work with the sponsor, Senator Bumstead, on this, but it really ought not to be done quickly. It needs to be done thoughtfully. It will affect a generation of school kids.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to add a little more on the next one, which is the Drive Safe. I would like the board to know that there's 12 states where licenses for all have been adopted and 2 territories. So it's moving in that direction. So when we plan to write a letter of support or resolution, whatever we decide, I want you to know that there are states that are already complying with the request of the people. And you have another identity that you want to report on that's very supportive of licenses for all.
Yes, I was in contact with leadership of American Federation of Teachers, and they've indicated that they certainly support this legislation at this time.
And some of the other things that we discussed, right?
Yes, not only this one, but also the sanctuary district as DPCS presented to us, and the Michigan Merit Curriculum. They have the same concerns that we do, that they're going too quickly and need to slow down and give it some some purposeful discussion over time.
Yes, so, you know, we're feeling good about the support that these bills are getting from the public and other school districts. And I know our superintendent is very supportive of all these issues because we talked about it in depth. So I'm glad that I can report that. Okay, so we go to the next page, page 4.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes.
It says House Bill 4988 was introduced to not allow school policies that prohibit employee cooperation with it. I just want to understand I'm reading that correctly. That means that school districts cannot be sanctuary.
Correct.
Okay, according to this piece of legislation. Okay, thank you.
That's a contrary bill to the.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's contrary to what it has been established. So let's see what happens with that. I don't think it's gonna get anywhere, but we'll see. Okay, so then, Marty, do we have some to report on the priority list?
We never discussed that.
No. So, okay, that's talking about the foreign language too. So we already discussed that. Okay, so then what we'll do is, if you have ideas as to what you would like to see as far as the different things that and we'll enumerate each one, and you can tell us if you would recommend a letter of support or a resolution, and give us some direction as to what you would like us to get together by January, so then we can vote on whatever we decide that we want to do. Yes?
I guess I'm still a little, I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm
No,
still a
please.
little confused. Are we voting January to develop language to then bring back to the board in February, or how does that
Well,
work?
what we foresee is, we heard the discussion. And so we're going to go back and with your feedback, hopefully everybody chimes in by, and send it to Marty and I. And then we go with your recommendations as to what we should do, a letter of support. Let's say with the licenses for all. I personally is gonna say, I would like to issue a resolution in support of licenses for all. That's what I would say. So what are you all gonna say? And then we will draft whatever we have to do and bring it to the board in January for a vote.
So I thought we were not doing that anymore between meetings. We are now going to give our opinion as to.
You can give
What
your
position?
opinion
Well, it's a
one-on-one. We can't do it as a
recommendation.
group.
Okay.
But you can certainly have conversations individually.
Suggesting that we do right now.
Yes.
Okay.
That will help us, and then we have some direction from the board, and then, so we don't bring a letter of support, and then most of you say, no, we wanted a resolution. That's gonna give us some feedback as we develop all these different items that will go with each bill.
And let me go back to the one that Cassandra brought up, so House Bill 4988. So this bill right now is in opposition to what Detroit said that they are doing? Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions on any of these, Dr. Pugh?
Well, I'm just gonna put this out here. I mean, I guess a bill like that, are we able to say that we wanna have language that's drafted and available in January? I mean, the other one may need some more time, but, or do we?
Which bill?
4988.
4988.
Or the controversial?
I think at this point, the board has to share either now or subsequently upon reflection where it is on these issues. And it is a little bit awkward to reflect, sort of ruminate publicly if you've not thought deeply about some of these issues. So the board ought to reflect upon this in the coming weeks, share some thoughts with us. and we can move forward from there.
Of where we are.
I'm not afraid to say, just from my perspective, that I do think there's a safety issue that comes with the drive safe, that to have people driving their children back and forth to school without licenses is a huge problem for everybody.
Right.
The second thing I would say is the sanctuary policy. If we believe in local control, then this violates that whole tenet. Schools should be able to make up for themselves what policies that they want, and I don't think it should be mandated at the state level in this way. So take that for what it's worth.
And I look forward to having the language written for us to respond to at the next meeting, hopefully.
Yeah, I have the floor?
Please.
There's different models that we're going to look at, and then we can draft something for our state board. Then I'm sure that all of you will have some input, and, we'll get a product at the end of the day.
Fair enough. Are our state senators here, Ms. Ramos-Montini?
No.
No, okay, all right, very good. Do you have anything more for the good of the group?
No, only that the committee will meet on January the 28th.
Okay.
December 23rd.
How about December 23rd?
Oh, that's right, we still have
Right.
another month, right?
Yeah.
Which is next week.
Yes.
No, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah, maybe I'll give you the day off because it's very close to Christmas.
Well,
We'll
just let
see,
us know.
we'll see. Marty and I will discuss that and see, we'll see. Because then we meet before that, and so, I don't know, there's many things going on in December. But
All right, very good.
we'll keep on top of things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Tilley, report on NASB?
I do not have a NASB report. I do, however, want to touch on, I went to another conference, which was the National Alliance of Black School Educators. I was trying to
So not NASB, but NABSI.
Not NASB,
NABSI.
yes.
There you go.
And I have a hard time doing the different one. So I tried to get in touch with them locally, and I had an issue with finding out a local contact. So I wanted to go check out the national convention. I was a little nervous because I didn't have a contact. But they were very warm, very inviting. It was a great conference. They used youth a lot in the program and displayed their talents, singing and dancing. We had a session on bullying, and specifically how it affects Black and Latina girls and the racial inequities when it comes to discipline. And one thing that they talked about, which is what I was touching on when it came to bullying, was about not only giving consequences, but having real interventions. That is lacking and that is needed. And of course, they talked about best practices for ECE and early literacy. I also attended, I was invited by State Rep Sherry Gay Dagnogo to attend the National Foundation of Women Legislators Conference. And that was very interesting. It's nonpartisan. So I did not necessarily agree with everything, but it was very informative. And one of the things that they talked about when it came to education, which I think everybody in the country is talking about, which is equitable funding, and how one of the states resolved that issue, and I believe it was Indiana. I know Governor Whitmer was talking about a tax for the roads, to fix the roads, but they actually increased the sales tax by 1%, and all of that went to making funding equitable for education, and it works in their state. So that might be something we want to take a look at here.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. You bet. President Olbrich?
So NASB is once again requesting the Michigan representation on the Government Affairs Committee and the Public Education Positions Committee. This is a minimal time commitment. Usually it includes one bi-monthly phone call. The Government Affairs Committee receives updates on federal education issues and weighs in on developments important to NASB. And the PEP sets the NASB position statements on all education issues. So I've served on the JAC in the past, and I mentioned a few months ago I can continue to serve unless anyone has a strong desire to serve on that committee. The other question is anyone willing to serve on the PEP committee?
I've been serving on it for the last probably 4 or 5 months. I can continue on
Okay.
the PEP.
Are we good
Unless
with that?
somebody else wants to.
All good? All right, hearing no other jumping up and down, that's what we'll do. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Pritchett has PEP, that's good to know.
Great.
Comments by State Board of Education members. Anybody have any comments for the good of the group? Going once, Ms. Tilley, Ms. Ramos-Montañez.
I don't know how many of you have heard. I know it's been on the news. There was a situation that occurred between DPSCD High School, Denby High School, and Almont High School. And it's very disappointing, especially because there were adults involved in this situation. Denby lost the high school football game, and as they were exiting from the stands, there were parents and fans or whatever from Almont that were taunting the kids from Denby High School. They spit on them. And they used racial slurs towards the players. That should absolutely not be tolerated on any level, especially when it's adults attacking our kids. It's bad enough we're dealing with bullying on a peer level, but for adults to be bullying the kids, and it's civil rights violations. So I don't know if there are some policies or something that we can, come up with when we're dealing with certain issues like that in our state, especially when it's not just on the local level of one school district, but it's cross school districts. And then also I wanted to share the organization that I lead, the Southfield Community Anti-Drug Coalition. Tonight we are having a Narcan training. The holiday time, overdoses rise. This is a really horrible time of the year for it. And there was a recent story in Detroit a couple of days ago where there were 3 overdoses in one home, and small children actually called the police to alert them. And with the Narcan training that we're giving, it's free to the public. It's at the Southfield Public Library tonight at 6 p.m. We also give out free Narcan kits. So you get the kits, you learn how to use it, and hopefully you can save a life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Ramos-Montañez.
Okay, well, I have to say that I was very emotional when I was listening to the different testimonies. I was born in the United States, but my parents weren't born in the United States. They were born in Mexico. And so I have living in Westaco, Texas, where we lived on this side of the tracks and the other lived on the other side of the tracks. So we went through some of the experiences that, and I don't like to say the word undocumented. They're underdocumented. They are documented in their own countries. Here, they're underdocumented. So when we say undocumented, they don't have any documents. They're not people that with proper documentation. They do have some documentation. And so I have lived through some of those same experiences when there's fear that if you go out, even now, I'm an elected official, and there's places where I go where I am not accepted, where it's all white people, and I am the brown person that walked in the room, and I look different than, and I am not treated the same as others. So when that happens, what I do is get one of my cards and go introduce myself. Once they know I'm an elected official, then it's, you're cool. You're okay. You know, you belong to our group. So it doesn't feel by emotions or stirring right now, but it doesn't feel good to be treated like that. So you can imagine if you're a student in school, you're kindergartner, you know, whatever grade, even high school, college students, and you have the fear and you have the knowledge that maybe your mom and dad will be fined and taken to jail because they don't have the proper documentation to drive. Now, we're here, and we're not going to go away. We're here. We're not going to go anywhere unless you deport us. And if we exit all the people that are underdocumented, I know that the country will stand still because they are the ones that do all the work, pick the crop, go work in restaurants, hotels, you name it, in the chicken farms, turkey farms, the florists, all these places, the whole country will close life without an immigrant, if you haven't heard that term. Even Cosecha movement has been able to, when they have a day without an immigrant and they march down the street with their children, the schools close. There's that many children in the schools. Kevin, that came from Godfrey Lee, he's got 97% Hispanos in his school. So if we all are exited from the country, it's going to stop. The whole country will stop. So to me, and I hope that you all feel like I do, it is very important that we, as the leaders of education, the constitutional responsibility that we have to educate all students and to make their place, their learning environment a safe place, a welcoming place, a place where they're dignified and respected. And I hope that you join me, and when we bring a resolution or a statement of support, that you're with me, and we can move forward together with Godfrey Lee, with the Detroit Public Community Schools, with the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and many others that are the AFT. I was looking at MEA and see what their stand is, and I'm going to find out how they're feeling. But anybody that's involved with educating our students, and when I say our students, it's all the students in the state of Michigan, including these children. And so we will be working on something that we can present to you, but you're going to go back and reflect, think, and then give us ideas as to what you would like us to send, as I said before, a statement of support or a resolution, something to go with the different things that we talked about. Languages are so very important. If a European can speak in 4 languages and we can only speak in 1, there's something wrong with our system. So I feel very privileged that I know 2.5, because I know a lot of French, but my 2 languages are Espanol y Inglés. And so with that, I really appreciate your interest, your attention, your respect that you gave all the people that gave testimonies. Today was a good day for one of my interns. His father was going to be deported at the end of December. He's attending MSU. He's working on his master's degree. He will finish real soon. And of course, they were devastated because the father was going to be deported, but God works in mysterious ways, as they say. The judge got sick, and he canceled his appointment. So now it's indefinite as to when he has to go back to court. Why that happened, I don't know, but, you know, miracles do happen. So I really appreciate working with you, and hopefully we come to a consensus with all these different topics that we talked about today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Other board members, other reflections? Dr. Pritchett.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Rice and the staff at the department on this A to F thing, for lack of a better term, that has been thrown at us. I appreciate all of my colleagues' comments, and I certainly appreciate the fact that the department has worked and listened and taken input. Again, none of us want this. I think the important next step is how it is rolled out in March and how some of the clarification is given around each one of those grades so that if any parents look at it, that they're able to understand it. Kudos to the parent dashboard, because I do firmly believe that that is where parents are going to find out about their schools if they don't already know. My experience with parents is they already know about their schools. They already have faith in their neighborhood schools, but for someone new wanting to look at that. So, and I'd like to thank President Albrecht for, again, bringing to our attention the charter school grant and digging in a little bit deeper. I did read the Washington Post article and saw you were quoted in it, but I think it just reminds us that we have to be vigilant, not only on that issue, but other issues also. So, and happy holidays to everybody.
Anything else from any other board member?
I just always like to acknowledge the presenters and those who came to speak publicly to us, and thank you for the information that you all shared with us. And so we look forward to getting back with you with a response. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Future meetings are January 14th, 2020, February 11th, 2020, March 10th, 2020, all on Tuesday, all at 9:30. If there are any topics that board members would like considered on future meeting agendas, it would be appreciated if you would share those in advance. During the upcoming week, we'll be working to finalize January's agenda. Thank you to those who presented in public comment. Thank you to our sign language interpreters for their work today. If I could see afterwards for one moment in my office, Dr. Pugh, Ms. Snyder, Ms. Ramos-Montini, Dr. Pritchett, and Mr. McMillan, that would be terrific. And happy holidays. You are not in trouble. You are not in trouble. Absolutely not. Not in trouble.
I know why you're going.
Nobody's in trouble. Let the record show that we are adjourned at 3:28.
Quick question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that an accurate statement?
No, it is not. You need to stop.
Thank you,
referring
Judy.
to that
It's always so
specifically.
horrible.
There are two
Every year, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is Christmas.
in the state.
This is like, somebody's gonna give me something and I'm gonna feel guilty because I'm not prepared.
I'll tell you who.
When I die, you're gonna remember.
The line on Christmas cards is my
Oh, well, that is good.
Well, he's retired. So he
That is amazing.
set up over the weekend, and I went, oh my gosh, I have a board meeting on Tuesday.
That's amazing. That is awesome.
I'm glad that you said
Review
I didn't want to like make a big deal because I don't really feel like I'm
audit expenditures of the current grant. Because we were talking about moving forward, cleaning the world up, right?
That's fine.
Okay, you're
I
good
just
with
wanna
that?
make sure I'm
No,
being
it's good,
accurate.
and I think there's some value to you leading this. I mean, this is an issue.
The day was
You don't feel like this meeting. I didn't think so, but I wanted to make sure. No, I didn't think so. I didn't, more than that, you're